On the world on myjoyonline.com, across Ghana's 16 regions on the Joy News channel. This is Joy News Prime with me, Sweetie Abochi. This bulletin is live from our studio here in Kokomemle. Coming up, Speaker of Parliament to consult Attorney General on the transmission of the Anti-LGBTQ Bill for assent by President John Dramani Mahama.
Nobody should joke with me when it comes to that area. I can lose my life because of that.
We'll bring you more details as he describes former President Akufo-Addo's refusal to sign the bill into law as unconstitutional. Also, President John Dramani Mahama tours newly renovated Ghana High Commission in Nairobi, Kenya, becoming the first head of state to visit the mission.
There's no higher honor for you to have your president visiting you in the first place. And for him to be the first president to have visited, I think we are beyond measure. We are grateful.
We have details as the president is set to join other heads of state for a high-level retreat on African Union institutional reforms. Plus, Managing Director of ARB Apex Bank wants President John Dramani Mahama to fulfill campaign promise of establishing a women's development bank.
We should ensure that when we're giving the support, we give support with the intention that we are creating value.
These details plus more stories in this half-hour package. Do stay with me for details. I'm Sweetie Abochi. Thanks for choosing Joy News. In our first story, Speaker of Parliament ARB Bagbin says he will put his job on the line if that's what it takes to have the Human Sexual Rights and Family Values Bill passed. While describing as unconstitutional former President Akufo-Addo's refusal to assent to the bill that was passed earlier in Parliament, ARB Bagbin said he will consult Attorney General Dr. Dominic Ayine on the way forward to ensure its passage.
LGBT bill. It was passed by Parliament. The former president failed or refused to assent to it, which was unconstitutional. There is no law allowing a president to refuse or fail to assent to a bill passed by Parliament. Parliament is the authority on passing laws, not any other person, not president. So he was wrong. And all of you together punished him for that. I am going to write and send it to the new Attorney General and Minister for Justice for his comments for us to resend it to the new president for his assent. So it's not going to take long time. It will be passed this year. This year, we'll pass it. It is anti-God. Yes. I'm very, look, that thing, nobody should joke with me when it comes to that area. I can lose my life because of that. It's better not to live than to live in that society where man to man, woman to woman.
Speaker of Parliament ARB Bagbin there. But President John Dramani Mahama has indicated that the narrative of neglect of the Volta region for years in the distribution of the national cake due to its political affiliation would change. He says his government would ensure the region, which has played vital roles in the country's development and democracy, receives a fair share of the national cake. President Mahama was speaking in Ho as part of his thank you tour.
The Volta region has always been a beacon of support for the National Democratic Congress, my party, and indeed myself, and has been a stronghold for Ghana's democratic progress since 1992. Your immense contribution to the success of our party and my election as President of the Republic of Ghana is a testament to the strength of the bond that exists between us. We cannot talk about Ghana's progress without acknowledging the vital role that the Volta region has played in shaping the course of our history. However, we also acknowledge your challenges, years of neglect and alienation from the development of our country due to your political choices. But I stand here today to tell you that this narrative will change. My visit this afternoon signals my commitment to ensuring that the Volta region receives its fair share of national development. Our objective to reset Ghana begins here in the Volta region. Together, we will work to correct past wrongs and work towards a future where every Ghanaian feels included and valued, regardless of your region of origin, your ethnicity, your religion, or your political affiliation. Since assuming office, we have wasted no time in taking bold steps to steer our dear nation back on course.
Taught the newly renovated Ghana High Commission in Nairobi, Kenya, becoming the very first head of state to visit the mission since its renovation last year. After being closed in 1960, the renovation work began in 2008 and was completed in April 2024. Damte Bediakwasari, the head of Ghana's mission in Kenya, stated that President Mahama's visit is significant and will be remembered in history.
There's no higher honor for you to have your president visiting you in the first place. And for him to be the first president to have visited, I think we are beyond measure. We are grateful. We feel honored in that you should have your head of state to be the first person to have visited us. I think, as I said earlier, we moved into these facilities. This is the residence, as you could see there. We moved in May last year, and then we moved into the to occupy the chancery also in April. So a few political leaders have come here, but this is the first time that we're having sitting president visiting the mission. So I said, beyond measure, we are more than honored to have him visit us. We've had this property almost close to 4 acres. We've had it since the 60s, but we moved out. We closed down the mission in the early 80s and came back in 2008. By the time we returned to the mission, I think the facilities were essentially, literally not habitable. So we started, addressing the issue with the ministry, and the ministry graciously agreed to help us out. And I think they were able to mobilize the resources to be able to do this.
Meanwhile, President John Dramani Mahama has tasked Dr. Ishmael Yamson to lead the National Economic Dialogue Planning Committee. A statement from the Office of the President that details what the President has directed reads, and the statement will be on your screen any moment now, and it reads, in fulfillment of his promise to convene a national economic dialogue as part of his 120-day social contract with Ghanaians, President John Dramani Mahama has set up a 7-member National Economic Dialogue Planning Committee chaired by Dr. Ishmael Yamson. It goes on to say, the members are Dr. K.Y. Amwako, Professor John Gachi, Mohamed Samara, Nelly Mreku, Anthony Sapong, and N.S. DeGraft Ejiri. The National Economic Dialogue will offer a platform for dialogue and consultation on the country's pressing development challenges. It will also discuss policy trade-offs and build consensus on reforms needed to transform Ghana into a high-growth, inclusive, and resilient economy. In our next story, former Lands and Natural Resources Minister Inusa Hussaini has criticized Minority Leader Alexander Penyomakin's request for President John Dramani Mahama to apologize to Ghanaians for his promise to appoint 60 ministers. Mr. Markins had earlier asked the president to apologize for that comment, indicating that government cannot efficiently work with 60 ministers. Speaking on Newsfile yesterday, the former Member of Parliament for Tamale Central, Inusa Hussaini, emphasized that the president has a responsibility to uphold every promise made.
As a member of the NDC, the president cannot violate his own promise to the people. We will resist that. And I'm disappointed in Afenyo Marken. When President Mahama said, as a flag bearer of the NDC, that he was going to work with 60 ministers, largely Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia reduced the 60 to 50. It's Afenyo Marken's suggestion that Bawumia was not being honest with Ghanaians when he said he would work with 50. And that if Bawumia had won, he would have apologized to Ghanaians and raised the number beyond 50. You see, we are running a constitution and a government that clearly must win the trust and confidence of the people. We have great trepidation on the way politicians and the political class toy with the lives of the people of this country. We believe that this country can develop and develop with very decisive, bold-minded leaders. That things that we have been doing with careless abandon, it will take time to do them right. We can get them right. And so when John Dramani Mahama suggested to the people that he was going to run 60 ministers, Ghanaians saw something new in that. Yes, I've heard people say that 60 ministers in financial terms, the quantum of savings is not that huge. But when you escalate that to include what it will mean to the Ghanaians in terms of the desire of the president to cut out wastes, when you escalate that to our foreign partners, to see how recklessness and impunity is being controlled and checked by this, when you escalate that to deal with the issue of nepotism, you are working with 60. And so in the 60, how are you going to deal with your family members?
Meanwhile, Executive Director of the Media Foundation for West Africa, Suleiman Abrahima, has commended President Mahama for appointing a crop of youthful ministers with parliamentary and sectoral experience.
So far, it's okay. The elements that I'm looking at, experience in this, on issues related to the sectors that these people have been appointed. And I noticed that quite a number of the appointees are persons who previously served as ranking members of the sectors to which they have been appointed. You can talk about Gavin Saboja, you can talk about Kessel Atufosen, you can talk about Okujeto Ablakwa, and I think Akando, Kwabnaminta Akando, who is to health. And if you look at the others, it may turn out to be the same. So these are people who, at least as far as parliamentary duty or duties are concerned, may have been following quite closely the developments in the sectors that they have been appointed to. And that, of course, also includes Honorable Sam George for communications. And I think in the past, he's been in the public domain on matters related to communications quite a lot. The other thing that I'm looking at is the age, if I may call it that way, in terms of how relatively youthful the appointments are compared to perhaps President Akufo-Addo's appointees.
You're still watching JoyNews Prime. We'll take a quick break. When we return, the news continues. Thank you. you for staying. This is still JoyNews Prime with me, Sweetie Abochi. Let's move on with the bulletin. And beyond its core duties of boundary demarcation, reaffirmation and delimitation, the Ghana Boundary Commission is also using social intervention programs such as the construction of feeder roads, the provision of potable drinking water and health facilities to address the potential emergence of security threats in deprived border communities. One of these initiatives resulted in the construction of a feeder road in Dollar Power, an inaccessible community in the Savannah region. Commissioner General of the Ghana Boundary Commission, Major General Emmanuel Kutia, says his office is also fostering cross-border cooperation with neighboring countries to organize joint activities to prevent conflict along Ghana's international boundaries.
Now, we hosted this conference, and one of the key things that came out of this conference is that apart from looking at the traditional demarcation, reaffirmation and delimitation of land and maritime boundaries, we should start looking at social intervention in deprived border communities. So as a result of that, we're seeking support, and we have received some support to be able to intervene in the construction of schools, rehabilitation of clinics, providing water in some communities in Ghana, and also feeder roads in some communities in Ghana as a result of this initiative. The third initiative that we want to concentrate is cross-border cooperation with our neighbors. So the activities are organized with our neighbors so that we can be able to ward off any conflicts that will rear up between our neighbors along our international boundaries. There were quite a number of gaps in the old act. And for that matter, there was a need for us to initiate moves to come up with a new bill to be passed by Parliament. And key among them was that the governing body of the Ghana Boundary Commission was not well encompassing to include quite a number of stakeholders. Secondly, there were no administrative provisions made in the Act. There were no financial provisions. The functions were also skewed, and they were not up to international best practices or aligned to other boundary commissions in West Africa. So we decided to undertake an exercise to come up with a new bill, which was passed as Act 1123, and that was assented by the President. So now the Ghana Boundary Commission has a new act, which is Act 1123.
Moving on, Managing Director of ARB Apex Bank is asking President John Dramani Mahama to fulfill his campaign promise of establishing a women's development bank. In an interview with Stephen Mensah, Alex Kwesiewa emphasized that the creation of this bank would greatly benefit the targeted demographic. He also noted that reviewing and revitalizing sector-specific banks, such as the Agricultural Development Bank, would be advantageous to farmers.
There are some times that, the typical banks may not be enthused to be financing certain activities because they are of long-term nature, they are development-oriented. But if you have a development bank that is solely focused on financing long-term businesses, making sure that women businesses are being promoted, I think that's the essence. Look at Ghana's population. Our women population is very big, and if the government has made it a priority to focus on, setting up a bank, a development bank of that in that nature, that will support women, give them, credit to be able to do, the little things that they do. I believe that together we can make progress, but we should ensure that when we're giving the support, we give support with the intention that we are creating value. You see, it's a wealth creation thing, so that it doesn't become like, we're giving monies to people, they go and just use the money, nothing comes out of it. With that, we cannot make progress. So we should be very intentional. We support them to be sustainable so that they can create value for themselves, for their families, and we believe that at the end of the day, together is the economy that will grow.
Headmistress of ABRI Girls Senior High School is worried about the infrastructural challenges the school currently faces. Wilhelmina Obobisa Atakra says this is hindering effective academic work. Stephen Mensah has more from the 78th anniversary of the school.
Despite its legacy and numerous achievements,
ABRI Girls High School has had its fair share of challenges. During the school's 78th anniversary celebrations, Headmistress Wilhelmina Obobisa Atakra expressed her excitement about the school's remarkable progress. While acknowledging the strides made, she also emphasized that much work remains and called on benevolent organizations to lend their support to the school's ongoing developmental projects.
We are asking the government and all other stakeholders to help us with the furniture. Residential accommodation for staff. We have less than 25% of staff staying on campus, and so it makes supervision very difficult. And then the last but not the least is extra dormitories for students, because there is much congestion in the dormitories. 9-year for refurbishing the kitchen and the dining hall. This has been a very big challenge to us, because the Form 3s and the Form 2s who are now in session will have to go to, for every meal they have to run 3 buses, and it's having a very big effect on performance, class attendance, and so we are very grateful to them.
Professor Korio Enim Wright, Global President of the ABRI Girls Old Girls Association, asked government to build upon the previous administration's advancement in technology to strengthen STEM education in second cycle institutions, particularly for female students.
2026, we're going to be 80 years old. So our focus really is on trying to sustain the excellence that our foremothers actually had and the vision when they established the school. We pride ourselves in being one of the leading girls' schools in Ghana. And in order to maintain it, we look at our facilities, we look at the capacity of our faculty members, our teachers. And these are the kinds of things that we need investment in to make sure that we retain and attain that head that we need. So as we look towards our 80, we are focused on infrastructure development. We are focused on ensuring that we have enough capacity for our teachers in terms of training that will be provided by the Ministry of Education to augment what we did. As we all know, technology is a very important part of education these days. AI is really something that everybody is talking about. And the younger generation actually latch onto these things much sooner than the older generation, understanding that we think
the 78th anniversary also featured the commissioning of a newly renovated dining hall and kitchen, sponsored by ALGA 1999 Year Group, and Vice President of Ghana, Professor Jainano Pukwajiman, officiating the event. The trustee chair of the Rotary Foundation, Daniel Maloney, has reaffirmed the organization's commitment to eradicating polio in Ghana, stating that it remains their #1 priority. At a news conference in Accra, Mr. Maloney highlighted the significant progress Ghana has made towards eliminating the disease, but emphasized the need for sustained efforts to achieve full eradication. The following report has more.
In his remarks, Mark Maloney highlighted Rotary International's pivotal role in the global fight against polio through its partnership with the Global Polio Eradication Initiative. He noted that Ghana, as part of District 9104, has been a shining example of commitment and resilience, leveraging resources and local expertise to protect vulnerable populations from the debilitating effects of the disease.
Our flagship program has been, is, and continues to be the eradication of polio. And we will, identifying some future flagship program, we are concerned will distract from the final goal of eradicating polio around the world. We are disappointed that we still have 2 countries in which wild virus polio is still endemic, and those countries are Afghanistan and Pakistan.
District Governor of Rotary International Ghana, Florence Mami Hagan, urged the public to contribute their quota by helping Rotary to eradicate polio from the rest of the world.
I urge you, I implore you, to support Rotary by buying a ticket so that we can achieve our goals. and make the communities that we serve better. They too have a chance to be able to enjoy the benefits of clean water, good education, good health. Right? For instance, we've spoken about polio and our aim to eradicate polio from the face of the earth. Ghana was certified polio-free in 2010, as far back as 2010. But there's still the need for advocacy. There's still the need to immunize, to make sure that whether it is the wild polio virus or the vaccine-derived polio virus, they are all eradicated.
Polio is a highly contagious viral infection that can lead to paralysis, breathing problems, or even death.
That will be a wrap for this evening's news bulletin. Do log on to myjoyonline.com for more stories to help you keep updated and well informed. My name is Sweetie Abochi, and I wish you a very blissful rest of the weekend. Bye for now.